Welcome back. As part of Channel 7's ongoing assignment education project, we bring you stories about Bay Area schools. Our next story is about the Grandparents' Tales program at Stagebridge. 3 East Bay schools are benefiting from it.
Listen to my story. Listen to my story. Is that true?
This is the Grandparents' Tales pilot program of Stagebridge. Under the coordination of Patricia Bullitt, local grandparents volunteer in classrooms to read books, tell stories, and listen to children read. On this day, Vilma Vitanza and Viola Beeson try their storytelling skills on the children at Lincoln School in Oakland's Chinatown.
All the neighboring aunts would come and help the little ant. And they all were, and continue to take the leaves to their huts to be ready for the winter. And I did that all the time. They walked in 2 lines, one that went to pick up the leaves and the other row coming back with the leaves on their shoulders. And I sat there talking to the ants. And you know what I heard one day inside of me? A little voice telling me, if you do as the ants do, oh, you will discover wonderful things. And that thing was perseverance.
Many times, the grandparent stories will stimulate stories from the children.
One time, there was a lot of ants in my backyard, and they were carrying food to go and stay, so they had enough food. When I was staying home with my mom, and then there's a lot of ants, I say, Mom, there's ants. One time when I went to the park, I saw a lot of ants on the sand, and then I said, look, Mommy, there's a lot of ants. They're carrying some leaves and food. My mom, she left a piece of chicken in the jar, and ants came in the morning and it was on the piece of chicken.
When we go into classes, we'll do exercises with the children. We'll say, okay, show us what it's like to walk across the room when you're 40 years old or 30 years old. By the time they hit 40, they're hobbling with canes. So I say to Cecil, who's 83, 84, I say, Cecil, show these kids an 84-year-old walk. And she struts across the room. And it blows their mind. You know, they don't know what to do with that. And I think for a lot of children, that's the case. Grandparents have moved, and so they don't have real contact with real older people. Instead, their images of older people they rely on the media for that. So when they finally see an older person who is sharing something of themselves and energetic and alive and loving and caring, they respond to it as children do.
Today, we're actually going to hear some stories from visitors. This is Cecil from Berkeley and Leon from El Cerrito.
When I was a kid, I grew up in New Orleans. And in New Orleans, people were very, very friendly. So I had an older sister who's 2 years, I still have her, who's 2 years older than I am. And we had a next door neighbor. And my sister used to go over to this lady's house and play and help her. And this lady was teaching my sister how to sew. And one day, after my sister had been at my neighbor's house playing, the next door neighbor came to the house, knocked on the door. My mother went to the door, and the lady said, "Your daughter has stolen my wedding ring." My mother just turned around and looked at my sister, and my sister was about 8, and I was 6. And my mother said to my sister just once, "Did you steal that lady's ring?" My sister said, "No." My mother looked at me and said, "Did you steal that lady's ring?" I said, "No." My mother had so much confidence in us, she turned around and told the lady, "My children didn't take your ring." She says, "I'll go back to your house and help you look for it, but my children didn't take your ring." So the 4 of us went back up to the lady's house. My mother searched the whole house. She went through everything. She turned over drawers. She even looked through the trash, and we couldn't find the ring. Well, the lady stopped speaking to us and we stopped going to her house because now we had, instead of being friendly neighbors, we got to be kind of like a feud. We didn't fight or anything, but it got to be kind of not nice. About 4 months later, the lady came and knocked on my mother's door, and my mother went to the door, and the lady said, "Mrs. McNeely, I have to apologize. I found my ring." She said my husband had taken my ring down to the pawn shop and pawned it. And so, when I said the name of my story is Why I Am Like I Am Today, is because my mother had so much confidence in me that, and my sister, that if she asked us a question, she knew that we would tell her the truth. And that's my story.